How depressed did being an alcoholic make me? I was an alcoholic. I've been an alcoholic for a very long time, whether I wanted to ever admit it to myself or not. But how depressed was I as an alcoholic? I mean, I don't own a gun, and there's a reason behind it. Because let's face it, I mean, I started drinking, and I liked drinking because I liked the party. I liked being around people. I liked being sociable. I liked just being able to talk and just be myself, and just the energetic, fun side of alcohol. I mean, that's what attracted me to it. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. What's up, guys? My name is Eric, and I'm a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict. I also went through a lot of other struggles in life, and I like to just share my stories and share my experiences for the ones suffering. And how depressed I was as an alcoholic. When I first started drinking, I first was an alcoholic. I mean, I started drinking because it was fun. It was what the cool kids did. It made me sociable. It gave me confidence. I didn't struggle with rejection at all. It took away all my anxiety. And that's what attracted me and really drew me into drinking. And let's face it, it's fun, it's a party, and then all of a sudden it slowly gets out of control. And the bad side of alcohol is, and usually the part that sucks, is we black out and we don't remember how depressed this drug, that alcohol can make us. I mean, we know what it makes us feel like the next morning. You wake up the next morning hungover and your head hurts, you feel swollen, you feel sick, you just feel like you've been hit by a bus. But when you black out, you don't remember your actions and what you're really going through. And I never really ever realized, except for my partners would tell me, of how depressed I really got. And I knew I got depressed, and I had those like bits of clarity of remember like sobbing naked on the floor, bawling my eyes out. And there's a reason I don't own a gun, because I would get so depressed that I knew if I owned a gun, I would have killed myself. I would have committed suicide very easily. And it would have been very spontaneous. It wouldn't have been thought out. Even when I attempted suicide in 2018, it revolved around alcohol. And that's the thing with alcohol, is we don't realize of how much of a depression drug that this is, and how much of a dark path that leads us down to the point that we become dependent on it. And it was one of these that I was dependent on it making me happy. I was dependent on it taking away my anxiety. I almost looked at it like as a medication, which is totally the wrong aspect to have when it comes to alcohol, when it comes to drinking. I think a lot of alcoholics out there are kind of the same way. And if we don't get alcohol into our system, what happens now? All of a sudden, we get depressed. We are starting to shake. It affects our central nervous system. We get alcohol in our system, and we feel good, and we feel like, okay, we can manage through the day. And let's face it, a lot of times we don't have this under control. I didn't have it under control. I didn't start drinking, 2 to 3/5 of vodka a day just from the very beginning. It was this slow progression that built up to it, because I had to keep drinking more and more to get the same feeling that I wanted. And I was always chasing a high. I was always chasing a feeling. And that got to the point that it just brought on massive depression for me. It ruined a lot of relationships for me. None of it was ever my fault. I knew alcohol always had a role to play with it, but it was never my fault. It was never alcohol's fault. I just figured maybe I was unhappy in my relationship, which maybe I was. But I mean, it brought on a massive amount of depression for me. And no one could tell me any differently, though, because in the morning, I felt better. And my brain went to, I need alcohol to be happy, which is such a challenge of our brain struggle of trying to bounce back and forth of being happy versus not being happy. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And that's how insane addiction is. That's how insane even alcohol addiction is we don't realize that we are becoming alcoholics. We're becoming where we're dependent on something, but you call us out on it, and it's like, no, like, hey, I just need a little bit of it to unwind after work. I need a couple beers to unwind after work. And I think addiction's different for everybody. I think getting sober is different for everybody. And that's where it makes, a bit of a struggle when it comes to this, is because everybody's experiences are different. My experience with alcohol is different than other people's experiences with alcohol. And the same way I got sober is not the same way everyone else is going to get sober. But I think a lot of us can really admit that we do get to some really dark places and some very depressed places, especially when drinking. And that's one of the things I think that makes alcohol so dangerous, because you can never take back the words that you say, the actions that you do. Regardless if you're drunk or not, we as an observer, because I've been on the observing side of it ever since I've been sober, will watch drunk people do stuff that you just can't let go, because you're like, you might have been drunk, but you still did this. And as the drunk person on the receiving end, when people start cutting you out of your life, what does that make you do? It makes you feel lonely. It makes you feel alone. Well, guess who's always there for you? Alcohol. And that's what I think spirals you down into this pit of despair and of depression. And alcoholism is a lonely, depressed place to be. And I will say this, at a certain point, thankfully, I at least woke up and I realized I didn't want to keep repeating the cycle. And I looked in the mirror and I finally decided to get sober, and get sober for me and nobody else. And that was huge for me. And that's when everything changed. And I share my story just because I know people out there relate to a lot of this, that we've been at those dark places. We're looking for a sign. We're looking for something that says fight. And maybe this is that for somebody. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe button, hit the like and subscribe button. Comment down below. Because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm none of that. But I found that sharing our stories, sharing my story, anyone sharing their stories helps people who are going through this journey, help people that are fighting, help people that are looking for like a sign. Because I know me as an addict, I always looked for signs. I need a sign. Please give me a sign. Maybe this is that for somebody. And for the one going through it right now, don't give up. Because sobriety isn't easy, but it's definitely worth it.